It was late in the hour of the pig. Mr. Hung was staggering on the pitch-black village road. The only light came from the oil lamp he carried. Earlier that day, his old father suddenly suffered from a severe stomachache, continuously vomiting and having diarrhea since the afternoon, terrifying his grandchildren. He had spent a lot of time tending to his father's needs at Mr. Fan's house. No one understood why he'd gotten sick, perhaps due to eating something wrong in the changing weather. Mr. Fan groaned, his face pale and ashen, vomiting and having diarrhea. Immediately, Mr. King, who was nearby, was invited to examine him. After checking his pulse and pressing his abdomen, he concluded that the elderly man's high age combined with incompatible foods had caused food poisoning. He prescribed some medicine, saying a few doses would cure him. Once things settled down, a few grandchildren were assigned to stay. The other children decided to return to their own homes. As he walked down the darkened road, Mr. Hung heard footsteps clattering behind him. It was late, and he thought someone was walking with him, which would ease his loneliness. Mr. Hung deliberately slowed down, waiting for the person behind him. But strangely, when he sped up, the clattering behind him also sped up. When he slowed down, the footsteps behind him also slowed. When he stopped, the footsteps behind him stopped. Annoyed, he turned back and saw a slender figure a short distance behind him, seemingly a woman. Because it was dark and far away, his vision was limited. He didn't think much of it and continued walking. At a three-way intersection, the left path led home. But for some unknown reason, though he thought of going home, his feet took him in the opposite direction. He walked hesitantly to an alley at the end of the village. In that alley stood only one house, belonging to Elder Anne, long abandoned. Mr. Hung was startled, intending to turn back, when he heard a faint clinking sound coming from the closed gate in front of him. This was very strange, as the house had been empty for a long time. Driven by curiosity, Mr. Hung approached and peered through the gate, his face turning pale with fright. Inside was a woman in a flowing white dress, standing with her back to him, her long black hair reaching her calves and one shoulder exposed. The terrifying thing was that late at night, a woman in a white dress was standing in the courtyard, brushing her hair, and her feet were not touching the ground. Knowing what he had encountered, Mr. Hung felt his blood run cold. He turned and ran for his life, sprinting as fast as he could. The village road, filled with sharp stones, cut his feet, making them bleed, but he dared not stop. He stumbled and fell, crawling on all fours, then got up and continued to run. Only when he reached home did he regain his composure, gasping for air. Mrs. Olin came out of the house, her face pale and ashen. She was covered in sweat, dirt, and her feet were bleeding from cuts. She was utterly shocked. She quickly brought her husband a basin of water and a towel, carefully wiping his hands and feet, then asked, "Good heavens, darling, what happened? Why do you look so haggard? I went to the teacher's house to pick you up but couldn't find you. I was so worried I was about to go looking for you. What on earth happened? Tell me." His wife's worried ministrations helped him regain some clarity. After quickly drinking a bowl of herbal tea, Mr. Hung recounted his terrifying experience to Mrs. Olin. She immediately went to the altar, lit candles and incense, clasped her hands, and nervously bowed. Afterwards, she sat beside him and whispered, "Oh dear, I told you, it was late, you should have just stayed at the teacher's house. But you wouldn't listen. Now you insisted on coming home in the middle of the night and got tormented like this. Go to sleep now. Tomorrow I'll cut some pomelo peel and wormwood to steam you, then it'll be over. When it's late, don't come home, okay? It's too much trouble. Go to sleep." She extinguished the oil lamp, and the couple hurriedly returned to their room, unaware that outside their gate, the faint shadow of a woman in a white dress, with long hair reaching her calves and cold, gloomy eyes, was gazing in, a chilling, demonic smile on her face, her feet not touching the ground. The woman's figure seemed to flicker, standing there for a moment before melting away into the inky blackness of the night. In Enhan Hoa village, at Grandmaster King's house, the faint cries of a young man were heard just as dawn broke. Leo, Grandmaster King's 19-year-old son and only disciple, awoke with his eyes half-closed, hair messy as a bird's nest, sleep crust around his eyes, and dried drool at the corner of his mouth. He yawned broadly, scratched his bottom, and didn't bother with sandals. He shuffled towards the gate. Last night, he'd snuck out to play until late. He thought he'd get a good, undisturbed sleep, but as soon as dawn broke, some cursed soul started pounding on the door. It was as if his ancestors were being raised from the dead. Not having slept enough and being roused so abruptly, he was furious. He was about to curse the impudent wretch when he barely managed to pull back the door latch, not even fully opening the gate, before someone outside yelled, "Oh dear, Master. Master, please save my family. It's urgent, Master." Leo, taken by surprise and unable to dodge, was knocked to the ground with a thump by the young man who had rushed in. The man's loud wails jolted Leo fully awake. He recognized him as Brother Tri from the head of the village. Leo quickly got up, dusting his pants, and hurried over to ask, "Brother Tri, what's wrong? Why are you shouting like the house is on fire this early in the morning? What happened? Should I call my master?" "Leo, it's bad, Master. Please save my brother. It's very dangerous." Oh, the misery. As the two stepped onto the threshold, Grandmaster King emerged, yawning. His appearance wasn't much different from his precious son, Leo. Seeing Brother Tri, the old man spoke. "What's wrong? Why are you calling like the house is burning down this early morning? Tell me what happened." "Master, please come see my wife, Sister Thur. She's like a madwoman. For the past few nights, she's been awake all night, mumbling as if talking to someone. Then she grabs a carrying pole and beats me and the children. Look, Master." Brother Tri showed him his bruised body. "She's beaten me black and blue. For the past few days, my son and I have had to sleep in the storage room. We don't dare go upstairs. This morning, my son Lily crept out to relieve himself and saw her tearing apart a chicken and eating it raw. Oh my God, Master, Lily wet his pants. After she finished eating, she went into the room. If she had seen Lily then, she probably would have eaten him alive too." As Brother Tri spoke, he raised his shirt, and Grandmaster King looked closely, utterly shocked. He couldn't understand what was wrong with this woman that she was beating her husband like this. The Grandmaster looked and said, "Before now, Brother Tri's wife, Sister Thur, was known for her gentleness, meticulousness, and resourcefulness, always knowing her place, respectful to elders and kind to juniors. She was utterly devoted to her husband and children." While Brother Tri was recounting, Leo, with the fastest speed, rushed into the house to gather their tools, barely even changing out of his pajamas. Grandmaster King, without changing into formal clothes, brought out his equipment and, along with Leo and Brother Tri, headed to Brother Tri's house. As soon as they reached the gate, all three heard a furious roar from inside. Little Lily ran out of the house in a panic, bumping into Brother Tri, her face pale. Brother Tri grabbed his child and frantically asked what was wrong. Lily, terrified, said, "Mommy ate raw meat. I told her we had no more meat, and she just flew into a rage, smashing things, and then tried to grab me. I was so scared, I ran to find Master, and now you're here." The commotion inside the house suddenly fell silent. Grandmaster King, pretending to be nonchalant, told the others to wait outside while he went in. He pulled a stack of talismans from his tool bag. The father and son quickly stuck them around the house. From inside, terrifying screams erupted. Grandmaster King took out another talisman, approached the bedroom door, stuck it on, and then used a spiritual rope to force the door open. Inside, violent scratching sounds mixed with the chanting of Grandmaster King's incantations. After a long struggle, Sister Thur flung herself out, but was immediately caught by a cloth emblazoned with talismans, thrown by Leo. Furious screams and dense black smoke billowed from Sister Thur's body. Grandmaster King took out a black talisman, bit his finger to draw blood and paint on it, chanted an incantation to make it burst into flames, then threw it into the escaping black smoke, piercing it forcefully with a spiritual staff. The black smoke, bound by the halo from the talisman, condensed into a single spot, was then struck powerfully by Grandmaster King's spiritual sword, causing it to instantly ignite and completely vanish. Leo removed the talisman-embroidered cloth from Sister Thur. She looked utterly ravaged, her skin pale and sickly after a few days, her body emaciated and her hair a tangled mess. Grandmaster King called Brother Tri and Lily to help Sister Thur. Brother Tri immediately rushed to lift Sister Thur onto the bed in the outer house. She was very weak. He pushed back her hair from one side. He and Lily called her name, crying. Grandmaster King approached and said, "Don't worry, she won't die. Fetch some warm water to wipe her face and limbs, and cook her a bowl of plain rice porridge. For 3 days, boil pomelo peel, ginger, and lime leaves for her to steam with, and she can only eat plain porridge. After 3 days, you can give her savory food." Hearing the Grandmaster's words, Brother Tri and his son bowed their heads. "Yes, Master, we are deeply grateful to you and Leo. Without you two, our family would have been lost." Grandmaster King helped Brother Try and his son stand up, then said, "You people, you keep getting into so much trouble. Just assign your son to help with the rituals, and for these 3 days, absolutely no savory food for her. Also, I have 2 more talismans for you." He pulled 2 talismans from his bag, one folded and one unfolded, giving them to Brother Try. The folded one, put it under your wife's pillow. The unfolded one, stick it on your front door. You've been out trading late at night and that wandering spirit possessed her. I've dealt with it, so you don't need to worry. But you're too greedy for work, you need to know your limits. This is a time of peace and prosperity, you can't take your wealth with you. Your spirit is weak, that's why this unclean thing targeted you. All right, my son and I are going home to sleep now, we're very sleepy. As he turned to leave, Brother Try stopped him. "Master, please let me give you some money. Dealing with that thing must be exhausting. How can I let you leave like this?" Grandmaster King waved his hand and replied, "No need for money, just keep it to take care of Leo. This year your family had a good harvest of corn and sweet potatoes. Just give us a little bit as payment, that'll be fine." Knowing he couldn't change the Grandmaster's mind, Brother Try was extremely grateful. He went and brought a large basket filled with sweet potatoes and corn. Then Lily and Leo, with all their strength, loaded it onto a cart. Brother Try then said, "Oh, Master, this year our corn and sweet potatoes harvested so much. I was going to offer some to your family anyway, but now this has happened. Master, please take all of this to eat or come back later to get more." Grandmaster King looked at the cart, realizing they had said a little, but filled an entire large basket. His son and he would probably eat these for the whole season. Leo, seeing this, made a sour face, then pushed the cart forward. He hadn't had a bite to eat all morning, and his father and Brother Try had dragged him along to exorcise a demon. Now he was stuck pushing a cart full of sweet potatoes and corn. He turned to look at Grandmaster King, who seemed to understand. The Grandmaster chuckled and said, "Oh, for my health, son. Oh my goodness, my arms and legs are aching. All right, I'll take my tool bag, but you, young man, with your strength, you push this cart of provisions home tomorrow, okay?" There was no need to say it, he understood. If he didn't push it home, who would? He couldn't bear to let his father do heavy labor. He'd just consider it exercise. After Mrs. Olin had boiled water for him to bathe, Mr. Hung collapsed onto the bed. His fever had subsided a little, but he still felt weak. Last night, after going to bed, he had been struck by chills near dawn, trembling uncontrollably. Mrs. Olin felt his legs, but they were still cold. She rushed to the garden, quickly gathered fish mint leaves and a few ginger branches, washed and crushed them, then squeezed out the juice for Mr. Hung to drink. Only then did his fever subside. This morning, she boiled water for him to steam himself, then told him to eat some porridge. She suspected he had encountered something unclean last night, which was why he was so ill. She let out a sigh and went back to the outer house, planning to go to Mr. King's house to get some tonic for her husband, when she saw Mr. Hung coming out of the room. She hurried to support him and asked, "Oh dear, you're not well yet, why are you out here? What if you catch a cold and get sicker, you could die." Mr. Hung, sitting next to his wife, spoke weakly, "Olin, you go to Elder Fan's house to see how things are. I'm too tired, I can't go there myself." "I know, I was planning to go to the teacher's house to check on things, and then to Mr. King's house to get some medicine. Last night I was so tired I nearly died. From now on, don't go out late at night like that. If something happens, who will I lean on? It's too painful. Go quickly and cook some porridge for your husband, then go to Elder Fan's house. He's much better today, the children can also lighten their load a bit." And then she went to Mr. King's house to get some tonic for her husband. By the time she returned, it was already noon. Everyone was heading back to their homes to rest before going back to the fields. Mrs. Olin walked alone, hesitantly, along the deserted village road. The further she walked, the more she felt something was wrong. "Why haven't I reached the turnoff to my house yet?" she thought, but her feet kept moving as if someone was leading her. When she reached a gate, she suddenly startled awake. "Why am I standing in front of Elder Ann's house?" She was clearly on her way home. As she was about to turn back, she heard the gate latch fall to the ground. The gate slowly creaked open. Though terrified, Mrs. Olin couldn't resist her curiosity and peered through the gate. Inside, everything was desolate and ruined. The house had been abandoned for so long that a musty, unpleasant odor hung in the air. Inside the closed house, she heard a clinking sound, like cups and saucers, as if someone was brewing tea. She tiptoed closer to the door and looked into the pitch-black interior. She moved closer to the crack between the two doors. If she hadn't looked, it would have been fine. But as she peered in, she shrieked, a blood-curdling scream, and fell backward, gasping for air, her face deathly pale. Then she crawled out on all fours. Overwhelmed with horror, she got up and ran for her life, still screaming in terror. As she ran into the alley, she collided with old Colin, who was returning with his buffalo. Both fell to the ground. Old Colin was about to curse whoever was so blind, but then he saw Mrs. Olin. He dusted himself off, helped her up, and said, "Oh, Mrs. Olin, what are you doing roaring like a crazy woman? What's wrong?" Seeing old Colin, Mrs. Olin seemed to regain her senses. She stammered in fear, "Old Colin, is that you? I just saw a ghost. I ran as fast as I could, or I would have been dead for sure." Old Colin chuckled, looking at her as if she were a strange creature. "What ghost? It's sunny outside, are you sun-drunk? What ghosts are there in broad daylight? You're completely beside yourself. I'm over 50 years old and I've never seen a single ghost. What nonsense." Mrs. Olin, upset that he didn't believe her, retorted, "I went to Elder Fan's house, then I went to Mr. King's to get some medicine for my husband. But it was as if someone was leading me away. I didn't take the road home. I went straight to Elder Ann's gate. And you, old man, you know all about the legends of Elder Ann's house, don't you? The gate of Elder Ann's house." She stopped speaking and turned back to show old Colin the open gate, but she froze in astonishment. Elder Ann's wooden gate was tightly shut, just as it had always been, with no sign of movement. "Oh, but the wind, and I thought the gate was open." Old Colin waved his hand and said, "Oh, you're just imagining things, there's no open gate. What ghost? Go home now, you should rest. Don't disturb the villagers. If you keep yelling, they'll come out and scold you." Mrs. Olin was utterly confused. She was certain she had seen the gate open and heard the clinking of cups, as if someone was inside. The vividness of her recent experience made her even more agitated. At the three-way intersection, she and old Colin parted ways, each going home. Inside Elder Ann's dark house, the clinking of cups and saucers was heard once more. In a dark corner of the house, the figure of a woman in white appeared, her skin sickly pale, eyes blood red, and long hair reaching her calves. The woman was parting her hair on one side, then began humming a frightening tune with terrifying lyrics. Finishing her song, the woman now wore a demonic smile and muttered, "It's time for your family to pay. I will take you one by one, so you must all die by my hand." Carrying her confusion, Mr. Hung returned home, feeling unwell. It was strange that he felt so exhausted. He asked Mrs. Olin, who sat beside him, "Honey, this is really strange. I left Mr. King's house with some medicine, but I don't know what kind of evil spirit led me to Elder Ann's house, as if someone was guiding me, and the gate was clearly open. Curiosity was one thing, but there was also something urging me to go inside. From inside the house, I heard the clinking of cups. I got closer and looked through the crack in the door, and oh my God, it scared me to death, honey. Inside, there was a woman in a white dress, standing with her back to me, brushing her hair, and her feet weren't touching the ground. I was terrified. Before I could turn away, the woman turned her face towards me. It was deathly pale, her eyes were burning red, and she opened her mouth, full of sharp teeth, and smiled. Then she said something like, "It's time for you all to pay." At that moment, I was so scared I fell to the ground, drenched myself, then turned and ran for my life. When I got to the alley, I bumped into old Colin, who was leading his buffalo home. I told him what happened, but he didn't believe me. He looked back and said the gate was open, but it was strange. The gate was still tightly shut, as if no one had touched it, but I swear I saw it with my own eyes. I wasn't just imagining things or talking nonsense because of sunstroke. Listening to his wife, Mr. Hung knew she wasn't speaking idly. He himself had witnessed something similar yesterday. He had been so shaken he hadn't fully recovered even now. He just couldn't understand what connection his family had with Elder Ann's house, or who the ghost woman was, and why she held such a deep grudge against his family. A few days later, it was again the beginning of the hour of the pig. The villagers had shut their doors and were safely tucked in bed, a mysterious black shroud covering the entire village. Old Colin began his late-night work of hunting frogs. He lived alone, without a wife or children, but was hardworking and generous, well-liked by everyone in the village. His elder brother had married early and had many children, both boys and girls. Unfortunately, old Colin had suffered a childhood illness that rendered him infertile. Knowing this, he decided not to marry, not wanting to burden any woman. His brother, thankfully, had enough children, so it was all right. Placing his basket on his back, old Colin stepped out towards the pond. The pond was located at the far end of Village Mow, meaning he had to pass by Elder Ann's house. He didn't believe in ghosts, so he walked fearlessly. Tonight seemed to be a lucky night for him. His basket was already full of plump, fat frogs. Carrying his joy, he hummed a folk tune as he walked. Suddenly, he stopped, feeling as if something was following him. He turned around, but saw no one. He scanned the alley and the road, still nothing. He shrugged and continued walking. But still, something felt wrong. He turned again and saw a dry coconut shell rolling on the ground, making a rustling sound. "So it's you," he muttered. He continued walking, seemingly oblivious. The eerie game began from there. He walked ahead, and the dry coconut shell behind him seemed to have a mind of its own, rolling along. If he walked fast, it rolled fast. If he walked slowly, it rolled slowly. If he stopped, it stopped. Annoyed, he turned back and glared, stomping towards the dry coconut shell. He kicked it hard, breaking it into several pieces. Then he kicked each piece in a different direction, shouting at the sky, "Damn you! Are you trying to mess with me? I've lived over 50 years, you old hag. I've never seen a ghost face to face, so how dare you provoke me? You want me to wring your neck." After scolding it to his heart's content, he pulled down his pants and urinated directly on the remaining pieces of the coconut shell. Finished with his business, he adjusted his pants and turned back, only to be utterly stunned. His eyes wide, his mouth agape, before him stood a woman in a white dress, her eyes burning red, her long black hair hanging down, her face deathly pale, her feet not touching the ground, her mouth stretched to her ears with sharp, overlapping teeth. Her skin was covered in festering sores, and her large, bloated fingers were throbbing painfully. Old Colin sank to the ground, speechless. At this moment, he was terrified beyond measure. All his courage had vanished, his limbs turned to jelly. He could only sit there, staring with wide eyes. His pants were already wet in a large patch. The figure before him let out an ear-splitting laugh. She spoke in a chilling voice, "Come on, wring my neck, old man. Here's my face, here's my neck." With that, the woman burst into maniacal laughter. Old Colin, overwhelmed with fear, fainted. He had no idea where he was or what was happening. When he fainted, the ghost woman waved her hand. Old Colin tumbled into a nearby ditch. The cold water seemed to jolt him awake, and he struggled up onto the village road. The woman's figure was gone. He gasped for air. The scene he had just witnessed was probably the most terrifying thing he had seen in his more than 50 years of life. Without another thought, he ran for his life back home. Entering the gate, he went to the kitchen, grabbed a handful of garlic, scattered it all over the yard and around the house. He also put a knife under his pillow for extra safety and threw another knife under the bed. He quickly changed out of his wet clothes and crawled into bed, pulling the blanket up to his neck, muttering Buddhist prayers, trembling uncontrollably from fear. He stayed like that, reciting prayers until the crowing of roosters heralded a new day. He had used all his strength and was panting heavily. About 2 hours later, he was awakened by a commotion outside. The noise was so loud that even with the door closed and his head covered, he couldn't block it out. He let out a groan, threw off the blanket, and sat up. Not bothering to put on his sandals, he slammed the door open and rushed outside, intending to curse the disrespectful early morning disturbance at his gate. But before he could utter a single word, he saw the villagers gathered like a festival crowd, with young men from the village rushing towards Elder Fan's house. Looking closer, he was shocked to see a rolled-up mat with human feet protruding from it. Not bothering to close his gate, old Colin ran as fast as he could to help the young men carry the body, wrapped in the mat, to Elder Fan's house and placed it in the courtyard. The people inside rushed out, crying loudly. When the mat was unrolled, it revealed Kai, Elder Fan's eldest grandson. The entire family had placed great hopes on him. Among his siblings, he was the most studious and intelligent, currently preparing for the imperial examinations. But man proposes, God disposes. Before the exams, he had already passed into the afterlife. Everyone in Elder Fan's household mourned him. His mother, Mrs. Nia, wept uncontrollably. His grandparents had been married for 10 years before having him. Despite their efforts, they couldn't have any more children after Kai. He himself was a thoughtful child, knowing the struggles they faced to raise him, so he was understanding and studied hard. In a short while, he would go to the capital for the imperial examinations, but now all hopes were shattered. His body was bruised black, his eyes wide open. There was a sharp cut on his neck, his heart had been gouged out, his limbs were broken, a truly horrifying sight. The problem was, he had always focused on his studies. He had never caused trouble or enmity with anyone. So why was he murdered so brutally? He was discovered by Brother Dam. He had left the day before for work to bring goods to his wife's market stall. Upon returning, just outside the village gate, he saw someone lying face down under a tree. Thinking the person had fainted, he approached and turned him over, only to gasp in horror. He screamed, then frantically tried to get help to carry him back. The villagers rallied, each doing their part to help the grieving family. The bat and funeral band was quickly summoned. Mr. Yu, Kai's father, went to invite Mr. King to perform the funeral rites. Besides being a healer, Mr. King also knew a bit about rituals and prayers, so he was always called upon when a family had such needs. As soon as he entered the house, Mr. King paused. He sensed a strong, pervasive presence of evil spirits. Approaching Kai's body, he flinched. This was not caused by a human, he said. It was his time, but this death was too cruel for him. Following Mr. Yu to a secluded spot, Mr. King then asked, "Tell me truthfully, has your family made any enemies or wronged anyone? Because Kai's death was not caused by a human." Mr. Yu's face turned pale with fear. He pondered for a moment but still couldn't understand who he could have possibly wronged. His family had always been modest traders, earning enough to live comfortably, not struggling from hand to mouth. Their business dealings had always been fair, with no debts or borrowing. So why would they be targeted for revenge? He shook his head, puzzled. He told Mr. King, "Master, no. Honestly, my family has always been small traders, working hard to support Kai's education. The villagers can all attest to how we've lived all these years." Grandmaster King nodded, confirming this, and the two went inside to join the funeral preparations for the deceased. Later, as Mr. King stepped out into the courtyard, he saw the villagers busy with their tasks, deep in thought. Without realizing it, he bumped into a man. Looking up, he saw old Colin. Mr. King paused for a long moment, then asked, "Did you encounter anything unusual last night, old man? I sense a faint trace of dark energy about you." Remembering his experience from the night before, old Colin's face turned pale. He looked around warily, then said, "Yes, master. Last night I went out frog hunting and saw a ghost. It scared me to death. In over 50 years, it was the first time I've ever seen a ghost. Luckily, it didn't kill me, master." Mr. King seemed to understand something. As he saw Mr. Yu coming out, he pulled Mr. King's arm closer to Mr. Yu and said, "Hey, master, and you, Mr. Yu, remember Mrs. Olin? The other day, when I was herding buffalo back, I saw Mrs. Olin running terrified from Elder Ann's house. I asked her, and she said she saw a ghost, and something about Elder Ann's gate opening by itself. Inside, there was the shadow of a long-haired woman in white, her feet not touching the ground, her eye sockets burning red. At the time, I didn't believe her, because I've walked home countless nights and never seen a ghost. But last night, when I was frog hunting and walking past Elder Ann's house, I encountered a ghost quite similar to the one Mrs. Olin described." Hearing this, Mr. King turned to Mr. Yu and said, "Mr. Yu, could this possibly be connected to your family? In my opinion, you should investigate thoroughly. If there's a past grievance, it's better to uncover it. Otherwise, I fear this won't end well. If there's no reason, why would they seek revenge on your family? From old Colin's account, I fear that ghost woman has become a demon." Hearing Mr. King's words, Mr. Yu's face turned pale. "A demon? Related? Related to what?" "Elder Ann's family home has been abandoned for a long time, since my grandfather's time. So what exactly is going on?" Although he desperately wanted to ask Mr. King directly, the funeral preparations at home kept him from pursuing his curiosity. He attended to the work inside the house first. Kai's death brought immense sorrow to everyone in the family. He was a kind, respectful, and obedient child. His mother, Mrs. Nia, was like a madwoman. Throughout the funeral, she clung to the coffin of her beloved son, wailing and refusing to eat. Her eyes were swollen red from excessive crying, and no one could console her. Exhausted, she fainted, and her family carried her back to her room. The daytime funeral arrangements were very tiring, so that evening, Mr. Hung's 3 children took turns guarding the coffin. The 4 siblings were very close, and the tragedy was something no one wished for. Mr. Hung's 3 children were no less grief-stricken. Finn, Mr. Hung's eldest son, spoke up, "We only have tonight together, so let's talk everything out. Tomorrow, we'll have to take our brother away." Lou, the second son, also said, "It's been a long time since we all gathered like this, and now it's under such unfortunate circumstances." Me, Mr. Hung's 3rd child and the youngest of the 4 siblings, cried as she said, "He promised that next time he visited, he would buy me a pearl bracelet. But now, he's in this state." She lit an incense stick. Finn turned and told her to go to the kitchen and bring some food up so they could sit with their brother a little longer. Me nodded and went downstairs. A moment later, she brought up a tray of food. Their last drinking party ended around midnight. The three of them just sat and talked about everything under the sun and drank wine as if the person lying motionless in the coffin was still alive and sitting with them. After talking themselves hoarse, they cried. After crying, they drank again. Bottle after bottle of wine couldn't drown their sorrow. As the night deepened, among the three siblings, Me was the most sober. When her two brothers became too drunk and passed out, she quietly cleared the food tray and took it downstairs. After finishing, she returned upstairs. She noticed a figure moving stealthily behind the garden hedge. It was late, and the distance was quite far, so she couldn't make out who it was. She slowly approached, calling out curiously, "Who's there? Why are you standing out here tonight?" The figure remained silent and motionless, then slowly turned its head. As Me got closer, she realized it was a woman in a flowing white dress with long hair covering her face. The only unsettling detail was that the figure showed no intention of answering her question. When she was about 5 steps away, Me suddenly stopped, a shiver running down her spine. Looking down, she saw the woman's feet were not touching the ground. Terrified, Me fell to the ground, her face deathly pale. She knew she had encountered something supernatural. The figure before her slowly raised its head, revealing a pale face and glowing red eyes. It then spoke, "Next, I will make your family pay for your karma. I will not let anyone in your family survive." With a laugh, the woman's figure gradually faded into the night, and Me lost consciousness. When she awoke, she found herself lying on the bed in her room. Mr. Hung, seeing his daughter awake, anxiously asked, "Me, are you awake? How do you feel? Why were you out in the garden last night, only to collapse there?" Me replied, "I wasn't in the garden, Dad. Last night I brought up the food and my brothers and I sat with Finn until midnight. Finn and Lou drank too much, so I cleaned up the dishes and took them to the kitchen. When I woke up, I heard you say I fainted in the garden, but I wasn't in the garden." Me's words left everyone bewildered, especially Finn. He had drunk a lot, so his stomach was upset. At dawn, he had gone to the garden to relieve himself. To his shock, he found his younger sister lying unconscious there. Panicked, he quickly carried her inside. Seeing this, everyone rushed over, some rubbing oil on her, others massaging her limbs. After a while, Me regained consciousness. "Try to remember, I was the one who carried you in here. You fainted out in the garden near the fence," Finn said to his sister. Me pondered for a moment, then shook her head, indicating she couldn't remember. Everyone assumed she was still weak, so they didn't press her further. She remained disoriented, unable to recall what had happened to her, and soon drifted back to sleep from exhaustion. An hour later, Me was awake. Mrs. Nia was sitting by the coffin. Me went to sit beside her, comforting her and asking, "Are you feeling better, Mom? Do you want anything to eat? I'll get it for you. You look so pale." "I'm not hungry, dear. I'll just sit with your brother a little longer." The two said no more, simply looking at the coffin before them, their eyes welling up with tears. The villagers gathered to carry Kai's coffin to the cemetery. The sounds of weeping, the mournful chants of teacher Vu An echoing from inside the house, the quiet sobs of the mourners, the bustling urgency of the assistants, the funereal music, all blended into a chaotic scene. The sky was overcast, as if empathizing with the loss of Elder Fan's family. After the burial, everyone was told to go home. Finally, only Lou and Me remained. As Me turned to leave, she heard a familiar voice call out, "Me." "Stop," she turned back, looking at the dark mound of the grave before her. It was Kai's voice, she could never mistake it. "Let's go home, what are you still doing there?" Lou, sensing something strange, approached his sister. Me looked at her brother, puzzled. "Did you hear anything, brother? It sounded like someone called my name, but I'm sure it was Kai's voice, I couldn't be mistaken." "What happened to Kai is something none of us wished for, but there's nothing we can do now. Let's go home, dear." He then took his sister's hand and led her away from the cemetery, unaware that the shadow of a long-haired woman was hidden right next to Kai's grave. A demonic smile spread across her lips, and she whispered, "It's your turn now." Then she burst into maniacal laughter, and her shadow slowly vanished. While the family was still grieving Kai's tragic death, the next calamity struck. This time, the victim was Me. After returning from the cemetery, she suddenly seemed to become a different person. Originally active and quick-witted, she became withdrawn and unwilling to speak or interact with anyone. After lunch, as usual, she took the dishes to the well to wash them. As she was busily cleaning the tray, she heard a splash from the well beside her. Startled, she turned her head and gasped in horror. On the edge of the well appeared a human head with a pale, greenish face. It was Kai's face. He was staring intensely at her. The sight was utterly grotesque and terrifying. At that moment, Mi's eyes glazed over, turning completely white. The terrifying figure in the well slowly rose, extending two pale, greenish arms with long, sharp fingernails, gripping Mi and pulling her down into the well. An hour later, when Mi hadn't returned home, Mrs. Olin went to the well to see what her daughter was doing that was taking so long. She found Mi's sandals by the well. The tray of dishes was still there, untouched. She approached the well's edge. If she hadn't looked, it would have been fine. But as she peered in, she screamed, falling to the ground, her eyes wide with terror, her face devoid of all color. Everyone in the house heard her scream and rushed out. They found her collapsed by the well, clutching the tray and Mi's sandals. Without needing to be told, they knew what had happened. Those who dared to look down were all horrified. It was Mi's bruised, bloated body. Mrs. Nia shrieked like a madwoman, "Oh my God, my poor child." The young men in the village quickly gathered, each doing what they could. Despite trying every method, they couldn't pull Mi's body out. Mr. King was called. When he looked down, he was horrified by the sight of the body. As the family recounted, Mi had taken the dishes to the well to wash after lunch today. After more than an hour, she hadn't returned, and when they went to check, she was dead. Mr. King was certain this was the work of some dark force, a cruel revenge. He just couldn't understand what sin Elder Fan's family had committed. After nearly 2 hours, they finally managed to retrieve Mi's body. Mi's funeral this time made the villagers uneasy due to the terrifying circumstances surrounding her death. They offered their condolences, then left, not daring to linger. Mrs. Olin kept fainting from exhaustion. After weeping uncontrollably, Mr. Hung was also devastated. His most beloved daughter was now a lifeless corpse. Seeing his relatives' grief, Mr. Yu remembered what Mr. King had said earlier. He approached Elder Fan and asked, "Elder, has our family ever wronged or made enemies with anyone before?" Elder Fan's response to the question was somewhat unnatural. "What? Are you listening to people spread nonsense again? Everyone in the village knows how our family has lived. Didn't Mr. King say at Kai's funeral that it wasn't a human act? Just drop it, don't make things complicated." "I told you there's nothing. Why dig it up?" He then angrily walked away. Mr. Yu didn't dare to ask anything further, thinking he would ask for a full explanation after the funeral was over. Mr. King had always been a straightforward man. He said things as they were. If there was nothing, he wouldn't have spoken like that. But man proposes, God disposes. The very next morning, the villagers discovered that Elder Fan had passed away. After returning home, about an hour later, Elder Fan carried a small hoe and walked towards Elder Ann's house. It seemed he finally understood the source of his family's misfortune. Entering the gate, he saw the desolate ruins of a house that once belonged to a kind and affluent owner. The old man couldn't help but sigh. A shiver ran down his spine. The terrifying past resurfaced in Elder Fan's mind. The story dated back 50 years. At that time, Mo Village was still very poor. Houses were mostly thatched huts with patched mud walls. Only Elder Ann's house was well off, considered wealthy. Elder Ann was in her late 50s. Her husband, a wealthy landowner, had passed away a decade earlier. They had 2 children, a son and a daughter. Their son, Engia, was a scholar, preparing to go to the capital for the imperial examinations. Their daughter, Thai, was renowned for her beauty and talent in singing and playing musical instruments. Many young noblemen from neighboring villages secretly admired her. Several times, they sought permission to express their interest in getting to know her, but Elder Ann refused. Thai was already 17, but her mother wanted her to have a truly good match, so she turned down proposals from neighboring villages. Fan, at that time, was a servant in Elder Ann's house. He had been an orphan, his family poor, so he sought work as a live-in servant. Fortunately, Elder Ann was a kind and virtuous woman, which made Fan's nearly decade of service at her house well known, and she valued him highly, treating him like her right-hand man. There's a saying, "Save an animal, it repays kindness. Save a human, it repays hatred." 1,000 times over, Elder Ann never imagined that her kindness would one day lead to her own family's destruction. And this calamity would come from the very servant her family considered one of their own. Having worked there for many years and knowing Elder Ann's family circumstances well, Fan's greed grew. He coincidentally learned that the family had hidden a hoard of gold and began plotting to seize it. He knew Thai had feelings for him, so he continued to get closer to her. He was only a few years older than her, but having had to make his way in the world, he had matured early and knew all the tricks to seduce a girl who had spent her whole life at home, naive as a chicken. When one falls in love, how many retain their reason to think clearly? Thai was a prime example. She was ready to give her heart and soul to her beloved. She would reveal all of the family's secrets, big or small, with just a few coaxing words. Since she believed he wouldn't harm her family, she never suspected anything. The inevitable came. Recently, Thai felt unwell and often nauseous. Her period seemed to be long overdue. As expected, she was pregnant. This was harvest season, and Engia was preparing for the imperial examinations, so Elder Anne was extremely busy, having no time to notice other things. Thai, therefore, avoided detection. When she told Fan, he feigned joy. His plan seemed to be close to success. Coincidentally, there was business in the capital, so this time, besides Engia, Elder Anne also went along, leaving the entire household to Thai and Fan, the longtime servant. With her beloved's consent, Thai was like a fish in water, freely ordering the servants around. During the day, she made sure no other servants were home, then cooked a pot of chicken soup and brought it up to her room. Believing her beloved cared for her, she happily ate it all, unsuspecting. After she finished eating, she suddenly felt sleepy. She thought it was due to her pregnancy, making her tired. Trusting Fan, she lowered her guard, unaware that he had added a sleeping potion to the soup. As the potion took effect, she drifted off. Fan then locked the door and went into Elder Anne's room, frantically searching for the hidden gold. But after ransacking every nook and cranny, he couldn't find it. He was about to search again when he heard a servant from the fields report an urgent matter. He had no choice but to suppress his frustration and go handle the business. For several days, he couldn't find Elder Anne's hidden gold, and he was almost driven mad. Then, earth-shattering news arrived. Late one night, when everyone was asleep, Fan was with Thai in the outer room. They heard a frantic knocking at the gate, accompanied by the disjointed, terrified voice of a young man. Because it was dark, the young man's urgent calls quickly woke everyone in the house. The cook rushed out and opened the gate. A body collapsed inward. Looking closely, it was Dom, who had accompanied Engia to the capital for the imperial examinations. But he had returned in the middle of the night, covered in wounds, blood still flowing uncontrollably. The people inside rushed out, horrified by Dom's condition. Thai, though startled, approached and asked, "Why are you back now? My father and Engia, are they all right? What happened to them?" Dom, exhausted and weak, struggled to lift his face and spoke brokenly to Thai. "I was accompanying young Master and Elder Anne on the journey, but last night, while we were resting at an inn, we were attacked by robbers. They stole everything and killed everyone. Elder Anne and the young Master were also killed. The inn was set on fire. I managed to escape because they didn't notice me. I ran back to tell you." With his last breath, he collapsed and died. Thai heard this as if struck by lightning. She screamed and fainted. Fan, standing nearby, quickly caught her and carried her inside, telling the servants to bury Dom. The atmosphere was thick with grief and sorrow. When she awoke, Thai cried out, "Why, oh heavens, why did you take my loved ones away so cruelly?" Fan, pretending to comfort her, was secretly overjoyed. He thought to himself that the day he would become master of this estate was not far off. The amount of tonic he gave her increased daily, under the guise of care, and he personally cooked her meals every day. With her family gone, he was her only solace. She thought he truly loved her, but it all was an elaborate act he had carefully constructed. Recently, she constantly felt exhausted, her head spinning, her limbs weak and always nauseous. She trusted Fan with all matters, big or small, in the house. His true cruelty gradually emerged. All of Elder Anne's loyal servants were dismissed by Fan, leaving only Bait. One night, feeling unwell, Thai woke up and found no one beside her. She called for Bait and Fan, but there was no answer. She struggled to get up, leaning on the wall, and slowly walked outside. Suddenly, she heard hushed voices in Bait's room. She quietly approached and heard Fan's voice. As she was about to enter, she froze in shock when she heard another voice inside. It was Bait's. "What will happen now? You said she was pregnant. Are we going to let me and the child suffer forever?" Bait cooed, sitting on Fan's lap. He held her with one arm and rubbed her lower abdomen with the other, speaking tenderly. "Don't worry, darling. I'm constantly increasing the dose of the medicine for her. In just 1 or 2 more days, she and that cursed offspring will follow her mother and brother. Then, you and I can freely take over this estate." For so long, I've meticulously plotted to seize this inheritance for myself and our child so we can live a little more comfortably. I never truly loved that woman. Hearing this, Bate asked, "Have you found the family's gold yet?" "Not yet, but I'll find it very soon. I've been here for so many years, there's no part of this house I haven't searched. Even if I have to tear down the entire house, I will find it. You just focus on your pregnancy. Don't worry about anything, I'll take care of everything." He let out a sinister laugh. The two cold-blooded individuals were unaware that Thai outside had heard everything and was frozen in shock. The betrayal was a mortal blow and it completely shattered her. Her eyes darkened and she fainted. The sounds from inside startled the two, who rushed out and found Thai lying unconscious. They exchanged glances. Bate panicked. "Fan, what do we do? She heard everything. Will she report us to the authorities?" Fan replied. "She's wasted away now, like a lamp running out of oil. Now that she knows, I'll make her stay in one place and silence her. She won't live much longer anyway." He lifted Thai onto his shoulder and carried her back to her room, laying her on the bed. He grabbed the cup of water nearby and splashed it directly onto Thai's face. Thai, seeing her betrayer, was filled with burning hatred. She slapped Fan's face. "You scoundrel, you dog! My family trusted you and treated you with kindness, yet you repay our kindness with hatred. If only I hadn't reached out to help a poor wretch like you, my family wouldn't have met such a tragic end." Fan raised his hand and struck her across her thin, pale face with a force like thunder. He gritted his teeth and said, "Everyone has their turn, Thai. Your life is not worth saving now. You talk about repaying kindness with hatred, but I just seized my opportunity. I tasted ultimate misery, so when opportunity came, how could I let it pass? You were merely a stepping stone for me to climb higher. Blame yourself and your family for being blind." Thai spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed onto the bed, her eyes burning with resentment as she looked at Fan. She whispered, "Did you orchestrate the deaths of my parents and brother?" "Yes, it was I. I paid the bandits to rob and kill your entire family so that all this wealth and property would be mine." Her rage reaching its peak, Thai stared directly at Fan, two streams of blood-red tears flowing from her eyes. With a cold, sharp laugh, she cursed at him. "You killed my entire family. Even in death, I will become a vengeful demon to exact revenge on you and all your descendants. I will spare no one who carries your bloodline." After saying this, she bit her tongue and committed suicide, her eyes wide open, staring at Fan. Witnessing her tragic death, Fan felt a chill run down his spine, but the thought of the immense wealth quickly calmed him. That night, he and Bate pretended to mourn, claiming Thai's death was due to unbearable grief over her family's loss, which led to an illness she couldn't recover from. The only problem was her wide-open eyes, which he couldn't close. He had to take a cloth and cover her terrifying face. At dawn the next morning, Bate feigned loud crying to announce Thai's death to the outside world, claiming she had succumbed to grief over her family's passing. Fan and Bate wailed tragically beside Thai's coffin. But in truth, the two cold-blooded individuals were secretly rejoicing. The last obstacles had been removed. After Thai's burial, the two remained in Elder Ann's house, naturally becoming the new wealthy owners. Bate's pregnancy grew, but recently she was plagued by nightmares. At night, Thai's vengeful ghost would appear, choking her and punching her stomach, causing her immense suffering. She told Fan about this, and the next day he invited a local master to seal Thai's soul and pacify the house. The hidden gold was also found. Fan and Bate held a fake ceremony. The house, which had been blessed with talismans, was now declared by Fan to the villagers as being haunted by Elder Ann's ghost, forcing them to abandon it. From then on, the house lay derelict. It was thought that the matter would be buried forever, but 50 years later, Thai's terrifying revenge began to seek out Fan's family. Fan was now an old man on the verge of death. He opened the door, stepped into the house, and placed the box of gold on the table. He sat there, as if waiting for death to claim him. It didn't take long. Just a moment later, the figure of a long-haired girl with burning red eyes appeared. Fan knelt on the ground, clasped his hands, and bowed his head. "I confess my sins. I deserve to die. Please spare my family. I am the one who caused your family's death. You can kill or torment me however you wish. Please, my children and grandchildren know nothing of the sins their grandfather committed. Here is the gold I took from your house all those years ago. I return it to you. Please spare my descendants." A chilling, sharp laugh echoed. Thai's vengeful spirit spoke in a gloomy voice. "Do you think a mere apology will make me spare your family? All those years ago, you cruelly murdered my family in my own home. Did you feel no remorse? I will eradicate your entire bloodline. Do you truly think I would spare anyone? With that, Thai's vengeful spirit laughed maniacally, extending her hand with sharp claws, gripping Fan's throat tightly. The sound of bones crushing, teeth grinding, filled the air. Elder Fan's eyes rolled back, his tongue protruded, and blood poured from his 7 orifices. A terrifying laugh echoed in the darkness. The next morning, the villagers were in a frenzy. Elder Fan's body was found hanging suspended from an old tree. His 8 children and grandchildren ran screaming in all directions. The death was horrifying and grotesque. The young men in the village helped bring the body down. Lou climbed the tree, but before he could even touch it, the rope broke by itself. The perfectly intact body fell straight to the ground. Everyone was horrified. Elder Fan's 2 sons and the village youths carried the body, wrapped it in a mat, and brought it home. They hadn't even buried me when Elder Fan's funeral began. Not only his family, but also the villagers were terrified. They wondered if it was a curse, as Elder Fan's family was experiencing a series of deaths in such a short period. Something terrible must be happening for these sudden deaths to keep occurring. After Me's burial, all the children and grandchildren gathered at Elder Fan's house. That evening, a meeting was held. Mr. King sat there and spoke. "This is no ordinary string of deaths. I stake my reputation on this. There must be something in this family's past. The deaths in this family are entirely caused by unclean forces. Forgive my inadequacy, I cannot resolve this. Your family should seek a more powerful master, or else it will take your entire lineage." Everyone's faces were drained of blood. Mrs. Olin and Mrs. Nia embraced each other, weeping uncontrollably. Mr. Yu and Mr. Hung, along with Finn and Lu, were deep in thought. They needed to find a master, but where? What was the terrible secret? Finn broke the silence. "Sirs, Mr. King, my family has always lived peacefully with the villagers, never making enemies with anyone. If it's a matter of the past, we should ask our grandfather directly. But now our grandfather is gone. Even if we want to, we are powerless. Regarding spiritual matters, please, do you know of any powerful master? Please guide us, and we will go immediately." After a long pause, Mr. King frowned and turned to Mr. Yu and the others. "I know of a powerful master in Enhan Hoa village. If you go by horse, it will take about a day to get there. It's night now, so it's not ideal. Tomorrow morning, your family should send someone to Enhan Hoa village to Grandmaster King's house. Perhaps only he can help." As if given renewed hope, everyone began to organize, each taking on a task. A horse carriage was prepared that very night, waiting for dawn when Finn would go to invite Grandmaster King. That night, Mr. King stayed for the wake. After everything was arranged, people took turns guarding the coffin. Some tried to rest. Around midnight, Mr. Yu suddenly felt discomfort in his stomach. He quickly got up and went to the back of the house to relieve himself. As he returned, he suddenly felt a chill and saw a shadowy figure lurking in the garden. It was pitch black, and the distance was quite far, so he couldn't make out who it was. He approached, asking, "Who's there? Why are you in my garden this late at night?" The figure didn't reply, only letting out a soft giggle. Feeling uneasy, Mr. Yu approached closer to identify the figure. It was the shadow of a long-haired woman in white, standing with her back to him. "Excuse me, miss, why are you standing in my garden so late? Who are you?" The woman giggled and remained still, but her head slowly turned. Mr. Yu was terrified by the sight before him. He turned to run, but the ghost woman's long, flowing hair wrapped tightly around his neck, arms, and legs. He thrashed wildly, scratching at the ground, but no sound escaped him. Before he lost consciousness from strangulation, he faintly heard the ghost woman's voice, "Blame your father. He killed my entire family all those years ago. I swore I would return for revenge. I will not spare his cursed bloodline. You must die for the sins your father committed." A sinister laugh erupted, and the ghost woman's eyes glowed even redder. Mr. Yu thrashed a few more times, then took his last breath. His eyes were wide open, his face purple, his tongue completely protruded. Along with her strange hair, the ghost woman vanished into the dense darkness of the night. At dawn, Mrs. Olin and Mrs. Nia woke early to prepare for the funeral. When Mrs. Nia went to the garden to pick some fresh tea leaves, she shrieked and fainted. The whole family heard her scream and rushed out. The sight before them left them utterly horrified. Mr. Yu had died in a contorted posture, his eyes wide open, his tongue protruding. Elder Fan's body was still in his coffin, and now it was Mr. Yu's turn. Mr. Hung fell to his knees, weeping uncontrollably. Mr. King and Finn and Lou felt their limbs go numb, barely able to breathe. This was clearly an attempt to wipe out the entire family. Another coffin was placed next to elder Fans. The villagers were terrified and dared not approach. Finn urgently headed towards Enhan Hoa village, realizing that if they delayed even a day, another life in their family would be lost. When Mrs. Nia regained consciousness, she went mad, alternating between laughter and furious screams, crying and tearing her hair. Sometimes, she would approach the coffin, mumbling to herself, though no one could understand what she was saying. The villagers dared not approach her. Mrs. Olin had to drag her into a room and lock her in, or Mrs. Nia would cause further destruction. Mr. Hung sat between the two coffins of his father and brother. All the arrangements were now overseen by Mrs. Olin and her children. Most of the villagers, out of fear, had left, but a few brave ones remained to help the grieving family, especially old Colin. Since the incidents began, he had been present every day at the funerals, helping in whatever way he could. After a day of continuous travel, Finn finally reached Enhan Hoa village. As he entered the village gate, he saw villagers returning from the fields and asked for directions to Grandmaster King's house. Following the directions, he didn't hesitate. At Grandmaster King's gate, he ran in, frantic, and pounded on the door. At this moment, Leo was bringing a bowl of rice to his mouth, not yet having taken a bite, when the furious pounding at the gate sounded as if it would break the gate down. Annoyed, he put down his bowl with a clatter, stood up, and walked out, cursing. "Who is that cursed soul disturbing our house?" He meant to hit the person to stop them. Before he could, he opened the gate and the person outside fell in, a repeat of his previous experience. This time, he was ready. He dodged and the figure collapsed to the ground, but it quickly scrambled up on all fours and ran in, shouting, Grandmaster King, please save my family. It's urgent, master." He then grabbed Finn's hand to scold him, but Leo paused. "Your family is full of dark energy. What kind of dark path have you taken?" He quickly pulled Finn inside the house. Grandmaster King looked at him, frowning. "What kind of grievance has your family incurred that a demon is seeking such revenge?" Grandmaster King stood up and approached the altar. He took out a talisman, muttered incantations to make it burst into flames, then extinguished the fire in a cup of water, giving it to Finn to drink. Although Finn didn't know its purpose, the master's presence instilled a strange sense of peace. After drinking, he felt incredibly comfortable, a sensation of lightness spreading throughout his body. At this point, Grandmaster King and Leo's faces finally softened slightly. "Prepare the tools, son," Grandmaster King said to Leo, while quickly gathering the necessary items. Leo also packed some food for the road so his father could have something to eat along the way. Finn understood and helped Grandmaster King's son pack the tools and carry them to the horse carriage. Once settled in the carriage, Grandmaster King spoke. "How many funerals has your family had, my boy?" "4, master." "Not enough. Today there will be 2 more. It is an unavoidable fate. Your family has accumulated too much karma. If you had stayed home today, you would have been the 5th. Finn's limbs went numb, a chill ran down his spine, and he trembled as he held the reins. "Leo, you come inside and sit with master. I can drive and show you the way." Knowing he couldn't argue, Finn let Leo sit and drive. Once inside, he took a deep breath. "Master, we know our family has incurred some karma, but the deaths of our loved ones are utterly terrifying." Grandmaster King then said, "Your family's fate, I can see, stems from the karma your ancestors created. Your generation is now bearing the consequences of that revenge. What exactly happened, I can only tell once we arrive there." This was not beyond Grandmaster King's predictions. That evening, as Lou brought dinner into the room, he knocked over the entire tray of dishes. The loud crash drew everyone's attention. Lou had died in a hanging position, his face bruised and swollen, and blood was still dripping from his fingertips onto the floor. The terrifying, consecutive deaths intensified the tense and eerie atmosphere. Old Colin was the first to rush in and cut the rope, bringing Mrs. Nia's body to the floor. As if jolted awake, people began carrying her outside. Mr. King arranged a ceremonial table for the deceased and told Lou to burn the rope. He immediately instructed, "Tonight, everyone in this house must gather in one place. No one is to be alone. If Grandmaster King has been invited, then according to my calculations, he should arrive tomorrow. Be extremely cautious." Putting aside all else, the remaining family members gathered in the main house. All the oil lamps in the house were lit as brightly as possible. Those who stayed spread mats and gathered in the courtyard. They hoped no one else would die. Around the fourth watch, as Finn and his group were returning, everyone was tired and dozing off. Suddenly, Lou heard a voice calling, both near and far. "Lou, Lou!" He jolted awake from his slumber, looking around. Everyone else was tired and asleep. He was about to lean against the wall to take a nap when the voice echoed in his ears again. "Lou, is that you, little brother?" He sat up straight and instinctively asked, looking outside. He saw a faint shadow near the well, the figure of his sister Me, standing there. She looked at him with sad, vacant eyes and waved her hand. "Come with me, come with me." At this moment, Lou's eyes became vacant and he stood up, walking towards the well where his sister Me had drowned. As he approached, Me's shadow also shifted. This continued until a loud splash echoed, startling everyone awake. They looked around confused. Mr. Hung's voice cried out, "Lou, where's Lou? Lou, my son, where are you?" Realizing what was happening, everyone rushed to the pond and the well. A young man's voice called out, "Everyone, Lou is in the well, quick come here." As people rushed over, they quickly grabbed ropes, tied them around the young man who had called out, and he quickly jumped down to embrace Lou. The people above pulled with all their might to bring both of them up. At the well's edge, Lou lay unconscious. Old Colin quickly rushed over and did his best to perform first aid. Mr. Hung cried out Lou's name repeatedly, but Mr. King and the others present stopped him. They had tried everything, but Lou was dead. Mrs. Olin's voice was hoarse from wailing, and Mr. Hung was no better. He cried out his son's name, pounding his chest repeatedly. At this moment, a long whinny came from the distance. It was Finn's frantic call. Hearing his younger brother's cries, he rushed towards the well. After seeing his younger brother's body lying there, he knelt down and wailed loudly. Although Grandmaster King had forewarned that 2 more deaths would occur in his family, witnessing it firsthand, he couldn't remain calm. "Everyone, stay away from the well." Leo quickly ran to the garden, caught a rooster, and with utmost speed, cut its throat, letting the blood drip into a bowl. He took out a talisman from his bag, bit his finger to draw blood and paint on it, then muttered incantations to make the talisman burst into flames. He took out another handful of talismans from his bag, mixed them with the burning talisman in the bowl of blood, and chanted incantations, then poured the entire potent concoction down the well. A resonant scream echoed, followed by a cloud of black smoke that instantly dissipated. Grandmaster King and the others carried Lou's body into the house and laid it on the bed. Finn, exhausted, finally arrived. Mrs. Olin had already fainted. Mr. Hung approached, clasped his hands, and bowed. "Master, Grandmaster King, my family begs for your and your son's help. Master, you see, I don't understand what karma my family has incurred that we are suffering such a rapid succession of deaths." He then collapsed from exhaustion, and everyone carried him into his room. At this moment, Grandmaster King turned to Finn and said, "Since this unfortunate incident has occurred, I will now perform the ritual. These coffins must be buried today. The situation tonight will reveal itself." After the funeral rites, the 4 coffins were carried to the village cemetery and buried. That night, Grandmaster King and his son prepared a ceremonial table, complete with talismans and all their tools, in case a peaceful resolution was not possible. As Grandmaster King and Leo sat outside in the stillness of the night, a cold wind blew in, carrying a strong demonic presence. The long-haired girl with burning red eyes appeared outside the gate. The demoness saw Grandmaster King and his son, let out a giggle, and said, "Wise men, don't meddle in human affairs if you want to save yourselves. If not, this immortal master will show you how to act." Leo, agitated, pulled at his shirt and pointed at the demoness, cursing her. Grandmaster King's eyes widened, and he tugged at his precious son's sleeve, saying, "She's older than your father, son. She just died young, that's all." Then he turned to the demoness and said, "I don't know what karma this family has incurred with you that you have taken 3 lives like this." The demoness burst into laughter. "Karma for karma. Not only that, you killed my entire family. Do you think that's not worth my revenge? If they wronged you, your family has already taken several lives from this family. If you turn back now, I will send your soul to the pagoda to listen to scriptures and reduce your bad karma. But if you remain deluded, don't blame me for taking action to subdue you." Grandmaster King spoke resolutely, but the demoness merely curled her lips into a smile. She extended her hand with sharp claws towards Grandmaster King and his son. Undaunted, the Grandmaster took out a talisman, chanting an incantation. The talisman burst into flames, and a powerful, heaven-shaking force flew towards the demoness. She let out a shriek, and a dense cloud of dark energy erupted. The two forces collided, creating a loud bang. Grandmaster King and his son were thrown back a few steps. The demoness, struck by the talisman's power, was knocked backward, falling to the ground and spewed a mouthful of black blood, letting out a sky-piercing scream. Grandmaster King clasped his hands, creating a black magical cage, which he fired at the demoness. He took out a cloth emblazoned with talismans. Leo activated it, and the cloth flew towards the demoness. The black magical cage was engulfed by the cloth, sizzling audibly. The demoness visibly weakened, screaming in desperation as Grandmaster King struck her repeatedly with a spiritual staff. Seizing the opportunity, the Grandmaster pulled out a demon-binding whip and lashed the struggling demoness again and again. The demoness writhed on the ground, and the dark energy escaping from her was dispelled by the whip strikes, quickly vanishing. At this moment, she appeared as the vengeful spirit of a beautiful young girl, no longer possessing her earlier terrifying appearance. Rushing forward to stop his father, Leo said, "Master, the evil energy on her has been dispelled by us. Now, can you tell us what happened?" Lying on the ground, crying for a while, Thai's vengeful spirit then recounted the entire story. Listening, Grandmaster King frowned. Indeed, this family is suffering from karma, and the revenge of this vengeful spirit is indeed brutal and cruel. The sins are no less than those committed by the perpetrator. Grandmaster King sighed, "Please let go of your hatred. When will hatred for hatred ever end? The one who committed evil karma has paid a heavy price. Your karma is also not light. If you are willing to repent, I will send your soul to the pagoda to listen to scriptures and reduce your evil karma. After atoning for your sins in the spiritual realm, you will be reborn into a better life." Leo also added, "It's best to listen to my master. If you remain stubborn, the heavenly thunder will shatter your soul, and you will never have another chance to be reborn. Hatred has lingered for decades. Revenge has been exacted, and the wicked have paid their price. Remaining deluded only causes more suffering for yourself." A moment later, Thai's spirit stopped crying and agreed to let Grandmaster King send her to the pagoda. He took out a small jar, collected her soul within. After all was settled, a new day dawned. Inside the house were Mr. Hung and his wife, and Finn. After recounting everything, Grandmaster King helped Mr. Hung cleanse the house of the evil energy. He advised him to frequently visit the communal house altar from now on, just as his own family and Thai's family had done in the past. Then, he asked for permission to leave. Mr. Hung's family wished to keep him, but Grandmaster King politely declined. They arranged for a horse carriage for the two to return. On their way back, they passed an old pagoda. Grandmaster King stopped and requested permission to leave Thai's soul there, so she could listen to scriptures daily and reduce her karmic burden. As for Mr. Hung's family, from then on, every month, on the full moon and the first day of the lunar month, they would go to the pagoda to offer incense and prayers for their own family and Thai's family of the past. As you sow, so shall you reap. Doing good will bring blessings, while doing evil will bring heavy consequences. Retribution may be delayed, but it will surely come.